The love of Christ is rich and free, fixed on his own eternally.
The Divine Purpose by John Matthews is one of the most recent books that we've published. The subtitle, Displayed in the Works of Providence and Grace. The reason why I was thrilled about this book and desired to be able to bring it back into print was it explains and addresses issues that have to do with the sovereignty of God and the responsibility of man in ways I've never read before. Archibald Alexander was the first president of Princeton Seminary, and he wrote a 25-page book review in a journal in 1831. And in that book review, Archibald Alexander said that he had never read a book that more succinctly and more clearly described the subject of God's sovereignty and man's responsibility as is mentioned in this book. And he addresses it in such a way that he said the most sensitive person would not find one word in this entire book that would hurt the most delicate feelings, even of people who don't agree with him. This was a high tribute. I think perhaps that portion of this book that struck me the most when I first read it, and I've read it over and over again since then, is the way he begins letter 3. In your evening walk you tread on a worm and crush it to death. Presently you observe a venomous serpent near your path, which you also kill. In the first case, the effect as it respected yourself was accidental. That is, it happened without your intention. You had no design to injure the worm. But in the latter, the effect or the event was according to your intention. Your killing the serpent was in consequence of a design, previously and deliberately formed in your mind, and yet, in both cases, you were the cause of death. In 1,000 instances, the exertions of men produce effects not only without design, but contrary to their deliberate intentions. But nothing like this can possibly happen with God. It would be the height of absurdity and manifest the greatest ignorance of his character to suppose that his power was exerted in blind efforts and was producing effects which he had not previously designed. Every effect which God's power produces is according to the predetermination of his own wisdom. In other words, God never steps on a worm accidentally. Everything that happens in this world is for a purpose, the divine purpose. Romans chapter 8, verse 28 tells us, we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. We are told by this that every single event in our lives has a purpose. What comfort that brings to us to know that regardless of the circumstances that come into our lives, regardless of accidents that might happen, circumstances that might appear to be random in our mind, none of them happen but for the purpose of God. God has a reason for all that he does.
His loving heart engaged to be